The stars had always seemed so distant, so cold. But on that spring morning, in 2157, they brought visitors. Ships appeared in Earth's orbit, massive and gleaming like floating cities made of light and metal. They came peacefully, broadcasting messages in hundreds of languages that humanity had never heard before. The translation devices they sent down spoke perfect English, perfect Mandarin, perfect everything. The aliens called themselves the Collective. They were not just one species, but 400 different races working together across thousands of worlds. They had rules, they explained, laws that kept peace among the stars. They came to welcome humanity into this great community, though there would be restrictions at first. Earth was young, they said, primitive, even. Humanity needed time to grow before joining fully. The world leaders agreed to meet them. What choice did anyone have? These beings had crossed the galaxy while humans had barely reached Mars. The meeting would happen on neutral ground, aboard one of their ships, a beautiful vessel they called the Harmonious Convergence. Floating just beyond the moon, Kenji Tanaka was chosen to represent the Asian coalition. He was 53 years old, a diplomat who had spent his career bringing people together. He had kind eyes and a patient smile. His daughter Yuki told him she was proud. His wife packed his favorite tea for the journey. He promised them both he would be home in 3 days. The ship was like nothing humans had imagined. Corridors that seemed to stretch forever, rooms that changed shape, and aliens of every possible form. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 6. Some flew. Some existed as clouds of glowing particles. Kenji met them all with respect, bowing as was his custom, learning their names. The collective representatives were polite but distant. They explained the rules carefully. Earth would remain isolated for 50 years while humanity matured. No space expansion beyond the moon. No weapons development. Observers would be stationed to ensure compliance. In return, Earth would receive basic technology and medicine. The human delegates argued the terms were too strict. Kenji was among those who spoke most carefully, trying to find middle ground. The negotiations lasted 2 days. Tempers grew short on both sides. The aliens seemed confused by human emotion, by the passion in their voices. To the collective, this was business, standard procedure for integrating primitive worlds. On the 3rd day, Kenji made a mistake. He didn't mean to. During a heated discussion about sovereignty, he raised his voice, not shouting, just speaking firmly. He gestured with his hands as he explained why Earth needed more freedom. His hand accidentally knocked over a ceremonial vessel on the table. It shattered on the floor. The room went silent. The Dexian enforcer, a creature standing nearly 8 feet tall with silver scales and 4 arms, stepped forward. Its name was Krathener, and it served as security for the collective delegation. "You have shown disrespect," Krathener said, its voice flat and mechanical through the translator. "You have damaged collective property. You have displayed aggression." Kenji immediately apologized. He bowed deeply, as was his way. The other human delegates tried to explain it was an accident. Cultural misunderstanding. "Please, let us resolve this peacefully." Krathener pulled a small device from its belt. It looked like nothing dangerous, just a silver rod. "Standard protocol for unruly primitives," it said, and pointed the device at Kenji Tanaka. There was a flash of light. Kenji didn't even have time to feel afraid. One moment he stood there, trying to make peace. The next moment he simply ceased to exist, not fallen, not wounded, gone, reduced to atoms scattered across the ship's deck. The human delegates screamed. They rushed forward, but there was nothing left to save. Krathener returned the device to its belt and looked at them with what might have been confusion in its alien eyes. "The matter is settled," it said. "The collective offers standard reparations, 10,000 credits, and our apologies for the loss of your breeding stock. You may select another representative to continue negotiations. Breeding stock. That was the term it used, as if Kenji had been livestock, as if his life had been worth a number in some galactic accounting book. The human delegates were escorted back to their shuttle. They were too shocked to speak, too horrified to process what had happened. They carried no body home. There was no body to carry. Just the memory of a good man who had tried to build a bridge and been murdered for breaking. A Cup.Earth learned of Kenji's death within the hour. The news spread like wildfire. Every screen, every device, every person heard what had happened. Ambassador Kenji Tanaka, father and husband, diplomat and peacemaker, had been executed by aliens for an accident, for raising his voice, for being human. The collective expected negotiations to continue. They sent messages offering their standard reparations package. They included pamphlets explaining their justice system, assuring humanity this was normal. Life was cheap in a galaxy of trillions. One death meant nothing. Surely Earth understood this. Surely Earth would move on. But Earth did not respond. For 72 hours, every communication channel went silent. The collective observers grew concerned. They sent more messages, increasingly confused by the silence. Then, on the third day, every communication device on Earth activated simultaneously. Every screen showed the same image, Kenji Tanaka's photograph. Below it, 2 words in every human language: never again. The collective did not understand. They would learn soon enough. Humanity had just learned a terrible lesson about the galaxy. Life was cheap among the stars. Death was just business. Accidents happened. Move on. But humanity rejected this lesson completely. Humanity chose a different path. Kenji Tanaka was not breeding stock. He was not acceptable loss. He was one human being. And that meant he was everything. 8 billion voices had just declared war on the idea that any life did not matter. The funeral was held 1 week after Kenji Tanaka died. There was no body to bury, so they lowered an empty casket into the ground. His wife placed his favorite tea inside. His daughter Yuki placed a photograph of their family. 3 billion people watched on their screens, standing silent in their homes and streets. Something changed in humanity that day. Old hatreds seemed suddenly small. The wars that had raged for decades stopped. Nations that had been enemies for centuries looked at each other and saw something new. They saw fellow humans. They saw Kenji in each other's faces. The politicians tried to be reasonable at first. They sent messages to the collective asking for justice, demanding Krath-in-her-face trial, requesting changes to the first contact protocols. The collective responded with legal documents explaining why nothing could be done. Krath-in-her had followed proper procedure. The matter was closed. Earth's governments met in emergency session. Every nation sent representatives. They met in Geneva, in the same building where humans had once argued about borders and resources. Now they argued about something bigger. How do you negotiate with people who think your life is worthless? How do you find peace with those who see you as animals? Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the assembled leaders. She was Chinese-American, 50 years old, and had spent her career in Earth's small space defense force. Before Kenji's death, her job had been tracking asteroids and managing satellite networks. Now she was proposing something different. They see us as weak, she said. They think we will accept their apology and move on. We need to show them they are wrong. The Russian president asked how. The American president asked if she meant war. The African Union representative asked if humanity even could fight beings who cross the stars. Chen pulled up images on the screen. The collective ships in orbit. Their technology. Their weapons. We have everything we need, she said. They left observers here. Those observers have ships. Those ships have computers. And humans are very good at learning from computers that do not want to teach us. She was talking about hacking, about stealing, about breaking every rule of peaceful contact. Some leaders objected. This would make things worse. This would bring retaliation. But more leaders agreed. Kenji Tanaka had been murdered for breaking a cup. How much worse could things get? At least this way, humanity would have a chance. The vote was unanimous. Every nation agreed. Earth began what they called the preparation. Underground facilities were built in mountains and deserts. Scientists who had spent careers competing now worked together. Engineers shared secrets their governments had kept for decades. The smartest minds on Earth focused on one goal: understand alien technology before the collective realized what was happening. Dr. Marcus Webb led the physics team. He was young, only 32, with wild hair and wilder ideas. He had been studying the energy signatures from the collective ships. There was a pattern there, he insisted, a way they bent space to move faster than light. His colleagues said it was impossible. Humanity did not have the mathematics for it. The energy requirements would be insane. Webb worked anyway, sleeping 3 hours a night, covering whiteboards with equations that looked like art. 18 months after Kenji died, Webb figured it out. The secret was not in creating more energy, but in borrowing it from somewhere else. Another dimension folded against their own. The collective ships did not push through space. They stepped around it. The first human faster-than-light engine was the size of a building and barely worked. It moved a test ship 3 light seconds before exploding. But it worked. Humanity could reach the stars now. They just needed time to make the engines smaller, safer, better. While Webb worked on engines, others worked on weapons. Humanity had never built guns for space war. Now they learned quickly. Railguns that used magnetism to throw metal faster than bullets. Missiles that could track targets across thousands of miles. Lasers that could cut through ship hulls like paper. The collective observers noticed something was wrong. They sent reports back to the collective, saying Earth was too quiet, too busy. Construction was happening, but the humans would not say what they were building. The observers requested permission to investigate. The collective denied the request. Let the primitives build whatever they wanted. It would be toys compared to real technology. Besides, Earth was under quarantine. The observers should simply watch and report. Do not interfere. Yuki Tanaka turned 16, 3 years after her father died. On her birthday, she joined the military. Her mother begged her not to. They had already lost Kenji. They could not lose her too. But Yuki was calm as she explained her choice. Dad died trying to make peace, she said. I am going to make sure no one else dies the way he did. That is how I honor him. She entered officer training and excelled. Her instructors said she had natural talent for strategy. She could see patterns in chaos, find weaknesses in defense. More than that, she had something that could not be taught. She cared about every single person under her command. She knew all their names. She would wake from nightmares counting them, making sure none were missing. The instructors said she would be a great leader someday. She said she just wanted to make sure everyone came home. 3 years and 2 months after Kenji Tanaka died, the collective received a message from Earth. It was broadcast on all channels, impossible to ignore. The message was simple. We are expanding beyond the moon. We are claiming the solar system as human territory. We are establishing colonies on Mars and the asteroid belt. If you interfere, there will be consequences. You took one of ours. You will take no more. Never again. The collective council met in emergency session. The audacity of the primitives was shocking. They were violating the quarantine. They were making threats they could not possibly back up. This required immediate response. Counselor Vextel, a being that looked like flowing water held in the shape of a person, argued for patience. Something has changed with the humans, it said through its translator. We should investigate before acting. But the Dexian representatives demanded action. They are animals, Krathna said, the same enforcer who had killed Kenji. They must be reminded of their place. Send a fleet to Earth. Destroy their new constructions. Show them the cost of disobedience. The council voted. 20 races for immediate action. 15 for patience. 5 abstaining. The collective prepared to teach humanity a lesson. They did not know that humanity had spent 3 years preparing to teach them one instead. Earth had been silent because Earth had been learning. Now the lesson was about to begin, and the collective would learn that humans do not forget. Humans do not forgive. Most importantly, humans do not accept that any life is acceptable to lose. The colony ships launched on a Tuesday morning. 7 vessels, each carrying 5,000 people and everything needed to start new homes on distant worlds. They were not military ships, though they had weapons for defense. They were pioneers, families, dreamers who wanted to see humanity spread among the stars. The collective fleet arrived to stop them 3 days later. 15 warships, battle-tested and powerful. Their commander was a Vren, a species that looked like upright wolves made of crystal. Its name was Sharp-Wind Through Canyon. And it had fought in 30 campaigns across the galaxy. Sharp-Wind sent a standard warning: turn back or be destroyed. The colony ships did not turn back. Instead, they broadcast a message on all frequencies, a simple message that made Sharp-Wind pause. You may fire on civilian vessels if you choose. History will remember what that makes you. We are unarmed families seeking new homes. If you stop us, you do so with violence against the helpless. Sharp-Wind hesitated. Firing on unarmed civilians was technically legal under collective law, but it looked bad. Still, orders were orders. It prepared to fire warning shots across the colony ships' paths. That was when the human warships appeared. They came out of faster-than-light travel in a perfect formation. 25 ships, smaller than the collective vessels, but faster, much faster. They positioned themselves between Sharp-Wind's fleet and the colony ships. The lead human vessel broadcast its own message. We are Earth Defense Force. You will not touch our people. Turn back now. Sharp-Wind almost laughed. 25 ships against 15, but the collective vessels were superior in every way. Heavier armor, stronger shields, more experience. This would be a short battle. It gave the order to fire. The battle of Proxima lasted 4 hours. Sharp-Wind learned very quickly that humans did not fight like any species it had encountered. They did not form defensive lines. They did not focus fire on capital ships. Instead, they moved like a swarm, impossible to predict. Human ships would break formation to rescue damaged vessels. They would sacrifice their own shields to protect others. When a human ship was disabled, 3 more would surround it, towing it to safety, even while under fire. Sharp-Wind destroyed 5 human vessels completely. But the humans kept fighting. More than that, the humans learned during battle. Each time Sharp-Wind used a tactic, the humans adapted. They started predicting shots, dodging before weapons fired. They found weaknesses in collective shield frequencies and exploited them. The turning point came when a collective ship disabled a single human fighter. The pilot was stranded, drifting in space. Sharp-Wind expected the humans to write off the loss. 1 life against many. Basic military mathematics. Instead, the entire human fleet changed course. All 20 remaining ships moved to recover that single pilot. Are they insane? Sharp-Wind's second officer asked. They were not insane. They were human, and they were willing to risk everything for one person, because that was what never again meant. Sharp-Wind was forced to retreat with 7 ships destroyed and 4 badly damaged. The human fleet had lost 8 ships, but recovered every single survivor. Not one human was left behind. The colony ships continued to their destination unmolested. News of the battle spread across the galaxy in days. The collective tried to spin it as a minor skirmish, but the details could not be hidden. A primitive species had defeated a collective fleet. More shocking was how they had won. By refusing to abandon anyone. By treating every life as precious. Admiral Chen reviewed the battle reports in her office on Earth. The victory felt hollow. 43 people had died when those 8 ships were destroyed. 43 names she had memorized. 43 families who would never see their loved ones again. Her aide tried to comfort her. "We won, Admiral. We saved the colony ships." Chen shook her head. "Winning is not the goal. Getting everyone home is the goal. We failed 43 times, but the collective saw it differently. They looked at the human tactics and called them inefficient, wasteful. Humans spent too much effort protecting individuals when they should focus on overall victory." Military analysts across the collective wrote papers explaining why human tactics would fail in larger engagements. They were wrong. The inefficiency was the point. Humans fought harder because they knew their people would come for them. They took risks because they trusted their comrades completely. That trust made them stronger, not weaker. 6 months after Proxima, a human research vessel was captured by pirates, raiders from a species called the Krish, who did not follow collective law. They took the 12-person crew as slaves and sent a ransom demand to Earth. The Krish expected negotiation, maybe payment. Instead, Earth sent an entire battle group, 40 ships redirected from their patrol routes. Admiral Chen herself led the rescue. The Krish laughed at first. 12 slaves were not worth 40 warships. It was economics. But Chen did not care about economics. She broadcasted one message to the Krish leader: "Release our people, or we will take them." The Krish refused. They destroyed the research vessel with the crew still aboard and scattered to their various bases. Thinking Earth would give up, Earth did not give up. The battle group split into teams and hunted down every single Krish ship involved. It took 3 weeks. When they were done, the Krish pirates were either dead or in human custody. Chen recovered the bodies of all 12 research crew and brought them home for proper burial. Was it worth it? A reporter asked her, spending millions of credits and risking hundreds of lives for 12 people who are already dead. Chen looked at the camera with cold eyes. Every human life is worth everything we have. If we do not come for our people, we are no better than those who killed Kenji Tanaka. Yes, it was worth it. The interview was played across the galaxy. Some species laughed at human foolishness, but others began to wonder, what would it be like to serve in a military that valued you that much? What would it be like to know your government would never abandon you? Young officers from the collective began asking questions their superiors did not like. Why did they accept casualties so easily? Why was losing ships considered normal? Why did they not fight harder to bring people home? Vextel, the counselor who had argued for patience with humans, watched these developments with growing concern. Not concern for humanity, concern for the collective. Something fundamental was changing. Humans were not just fighting with weapons. They were fighting with ideas, and ideas were more dangerous than any gun. Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka commanded her first ship at age 19. It was a small vessel, only 30 crew, but she knew every person's name. She knew their families, their dreams, their fears. She promised them all the same thing her first day in command: "I will do everything in my power to bring you home. Every single one of you." That is not a hope. That is a promise. Her crew loved her for it. They would have followed her into the sun. When other captains asked how she maintained such loyalty, she told them it was simple. "They know I see them as people, not numbers. That is all anyone wants." The human doctrine was spreading, not through force, but through example. And slowly, the galaxy was beginning to learn what humans had known all along. Every life mattered. Every single one. Never again would that truth be forgotten. 5 years after Kenji Tanaka died, the collective was breaking apart from the inside. Not through violence or revolution, but through doubt. 40 species had formally withdrawn from the collective council, declaring they would no longer follow policies that treated life as cheap. They called themselves the Alliance of Sovereign Systems, but everyone knew the truth. They were siding with humanity. The Dexian Empire watched this rebellion with growing fury. They had been the military backbone of the collective for 3 centuries. Their fleets kept the peace. Their enforcers maintained order. Now, primitive humans were destroying everything they had built. And the Dexians blamed one person for starting it all. Kenji Tanaka is one insignificant human who could not follow simple rules. Krathner had dealt with him appropriately, yet somehow this had spiraled into chaos. The Dexian High Command decided enough was enough. Earth must be punished. Humanity must learn their place. They gathered a fleet of 200 warships, the largest armada assembled in 50 years. Their target was Earth itself, not to conquer, to destroy. Make an example that would echo across the galaxy for generations. Earth's defense satellites detected the fleet 3 days out. Admiral Chen called an emergency meeting of the military council. The math was simple and terrible. Earth had 60 warships defending the home system. Good ships with experienced crews, but 60 against 200 was not a fight they could win. We need to evacuate, one general suggested. Get as many people off-world as possible. To where? Chen asked. The colonies are not ready to support billions. Yeah. And if we run, the Dexians will hunt us down. No, we make our stand here, okay? She sent out a call to every human ship in space, every military vessel, every colony transport, every mining ship, every private yacht. If you can fly, come home. Earth needs you. They came. Oh, how they came. Ships appeared from across the solar system and beyond. Military vessels arrived first, forming defensive lines around Earth, but behind them came thousands of civilian craft, personal shuttles, corporate transports, mining haulers. Even antique rockets that had been in museums were pulled out and made Space War. HFY UK. Tanaka brought her ship from the Mars Patrol. She was a captain now, 21 years old, commanding a destroyer with a crew of 200. They arrived 4 hours before the Dexian fleet and took position in the outer defensive ring. Her crew was nervous. Everyone was nervous. They were about to face the most powerful military force in the known galaxy, a force that had come to erase Earth from the stars. Yuki walked through her ship, speaking to each crew member personally. I know you are scared, she told them. I am scared too, but we are here to protect our home, to protect the people we love, to show the galaxy that humanity will not be erased. Your parents are down there, your children, your friends, everyone you've ever known. We are the wall between them and destruction. We hold this line. One young ensign, barely 18, asked the question everyone was thinking. Captain, what if we cannot win? Yuki put her hand on his shoulder. Then we die, making sure they remember us. We die proving that humans do not surrender. We die showing them that every life they take will cost them dearly. But we do not die quietly. The Dexian fleet arrived exactly when predicted. 200 warships, each bristling with weapons. They arranged themselves in attack formation, a display meant to terrify. Admiral Chen opened a communication channel. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth Defense Force. You are not welcome in this system. Turn back now. The Dexian commander responded with contempt in its voice. You are primitives playing with stolen technology. We will burn your world and scatter your people. This is justice for your crimes against the collective. Our crimes. Chen's voice was ice. You murdered a diplomat for breaking a cup. You treat life as currency. You come to destroy billions because you cannot accept that some species value life more than power. If this is collective justice, we want no part of it. Then you will die. The Dexian fleet advanced. The human military ships opened fire first, railguns and missiles, creating a wall of metal and explosions. They fought with everything they had, but it was not enough. The Dexians pushed through, destroying ship after ship. That was when something incredible happened. The civilian ships advanced. Thousands of vessels, none designed for combat, moved forward to fill the gaps. Mining ships used their industrial lasers as weapons. Transport vessels rammed Dexian cruisers. Even personal shuttles, with nothing but maneuvering thrusters, threw themselves at the enemy, coming improvised missiles. On Earth, 8 billion people watched the battle. 8 billion voices began broadcasting the same message on every frequency. A message that filled space itself, a chorus of defiance. Never again, never again, never again. The Dexian commander was shocked. These civilians were supposed to flee. Instead, they were attacking, dying. For what? For a planet. For an idea? Made no tactical sense. But humans were not fighting with tactics. They were fighting with love. Every person in that wall of ships was protecting someone below. Parents protecting children. Children protecting parents. Strangers protecting strangers, because they were all human. Because they had all learned the lesson Kenji Tanaka's death had taught them. No one is expendable. Everyone matters. Never again. The battle lasted 8 hours. The Dexian fleet broke through the outer defenses. They destroyed orbital stations. They reached striking distance of Earth itself, but they did so at devastating cost. For every human ship destroyed, 2 human ships appeared to take its place. The civilians kept coming, kept fighting, kept dying to buy just one more minute. Yuki's ship took a direct hit that killed half her crew. Emergency systems failed. Life support was failing. Her second officer begged her to evacuate the ship while they could. No, Yuki said calmly. We still have engines, still have one working railgun. We can still fight. She pointed her dying ship at a Dexian battleship and accelerated. Full power. Maximum speed. Her remaining crew understood immediately and strapped in. If they were going to die, they would take that battleship with them. The Dexian battleship tried to evade, but Yuki was too fast. Her ship struck like a meteor, punching through shields and armor. Both vessels exploded in a fireball visible from Earth's surface. But Yuki's crew had evacuated at the last second, jumping into space in emergency suits. 3 other human ships broke formation to recover them, even while the battle raged, because that was the human way. The Dexian commander watched this and finally understood. These humans could not be defeated. Not because they had better ships or weapons, because they would never stop fighting. Every ship destroyed was replaced by 2 more. Every soldier killed made the survivors fight harder. There was no breaking point, no surrender. The Dexians had destroyed 130 human vessels. They had killed 40,000 people, but they had lost 120 ships of their own. 60% casualties against mostly civilian resistance. It was unsustainable. The Dexian fleet retreated. They limped back to collective space, defeated not by military might, but by the unbreakable will of a species that refused to let anyone die alone. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her damaged flagship and watched them go. Around her, the defense fleet was in ruins. So many dead, so many ships destroyed, but Earth still stood. Humanity survived. We won, her aide said quietly. Chen shook her head, tears streaming down her face. No, we survived. There is a difference. On Earth, 8 billion people mourned 40,000 dead. 8 billion people attended memorial services. 8 billion people swore the same oath. Never again, no matter the cost. Never again. 10 years after Kenji Tanaka died, Counselor Vexdell stood before the ruins of the collective council chambers and made decision that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. It formally requested asylum on Earth. The news shocked the galaxy. Vextel was not just any counselor. It had served the collective for 60 years, representing its species across hundreds of worlds. Now it was abandoning everything to join humanity. When asked why, Vextel's answer was simple. "'Cause I finally understand what civilization means. And it does not mean what we built." Vextel was not alone. The collective had fractured completely after the failed assault on Earth. Some species withdrew into isolation. Others joined the alliance of sovereign systems. But many, like Vextel, came to Earth seeking something different. They came seeking the human way. The war crimes tribunals began 6 months later. For the first time in galactic history, individuals were held accountable for their actions during war. The concept was revolutionary. In collective law, soldiers followed orders. Leaders made decisions for the good of their species. Personal responsibility did not exist at the command level. Humanity rejected this completely. Every person was responsible for their choices. Following orders was not an excuse for murder. The tribunals were not about revenge. They were about justice, about saying clearly that some actions were wrong, no matter who ordered them. Krathener, the enforcer who killed Kenji Tanaka, was the first to stand trial. It did not understand why. It had followed protocol, done its duty. The human judge explained patiently that murdering an unarmed diplomat for an accident was not duty. It was murder, but it was legal under collective law. Krathener protested. "Think collective law was wrong," the judge said. "We are here to make new law, better law, law that says every life matters." Krathener was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment, not death. Humans had abolished the death penalty decades ago. Even murderers had value as living beings who might someday understand their crimes and change. The Dexian High Command members faced similar trials. Some were convicted. Some were acquitted when evidence showed they had tried to prevent the assault on Earth. The trials were fair, transparent, and broadcast across the galaxy. They set a precedent that would reshape civilization. Admiral Sarah Chen retired after the trials ended. She was 55 years old and tired beyond words. She had spent 10 years preparing for war, fighting battles, and counting the dead. She wanted peace. Her retirement ceremony was attended by representatives from 200 species. Many came to honor her. Many came to apologize. A Vren admiral named Sharp Wine Through Canyon, who had fought at Proxima, presented her with a crystal blade. It was a warrior's tribute among its people. "You taught me what it means to value life," Sharp Wine said. "I was a good soldier before. You made me a better person." Chen accepted the blade with a tired smile. "I just wanted everyone to come home. I still want that." She moved to a small house in Japan, not far from where Kenji Tanaka had lived. She planted a garden and tried to forget the names of the dead. She could not forget them. She would never forget them. But she could try to find peace among the flowers. The galaxy began rebuilding under new principles. Earth became the diplomatic capital, not through conquest, but through example. The old collective dissolved entirely, replaced by a federation based on human ideals. Every species had equal voice. Every individual had rights. Life was not currency. Life was sacred. They called the new government the Galactic Compact. Its founding document was written by scholars from 50 species, but the core principle came from humanity. Every sapient being has the right to exist. Every life has value. No one is expendable. Never again. The compact had teeth. A mutual defense fleet protected member worlds. Economic sanctions punished species that violated rights. But more than that, the compact had hope. It promised that civilization could be better, that the strong could protect the weak without exploiting them, that different species could work together without hierarchy. Why Yuki Tanaka survived the Battle of Earth, though barely. She spent 6 months in medical treatment recovering from her injuries. When she returned to duty, she was promoted to admiral. At 26, she was the youngest admiral in human history. She never forgot the crew members who died on her ship. She visited their families personally. She learned their stories. She made sure their sacrifice was remembered. And she trained the next generation of officers with one simple rule. Everyone comes home. That is your only job. Win the battle if you can. Complete the mission if possible. But your real mission is bringing your people home alive. Nothing else matters more. Her reputation spread across the fleet. Young officers requested assignments under her command. They knew she would value their lives. They knew she would fight to bring them home. That trust made them willing to follow her anywhere. 10 years after her father died, Key stood at the dedication of the Galactic Senate building. It was built on Earth in Geneva, where humanity had once met to prevent wars among themselves. Now it housed representatives from across the galaxy, meeting to prevent war among the stars. At the center of the plaza stood a statue, bronze and beautiful. It showed a man in diplomat's robes with kind eyes and a patient smile. Kenji Tanaka. The plaque below was written in every known language. He was one. He was all of us. Never again. Yuki spoke at the dedication. Her voice was steady, though tears ran down her face. She spoke about her father, about his kindness, about how he had died trying to build a bridge between species, about how his death had changed everything. My father believed in peace, she said. He believed people of different worlds could understand each other, work together, build something better. The collective killed him for that belief. They thought they could silence his message by ending his life. They were wrong. She gestured to the crowd. Thousands of beings from hundreds of species, all gathered to honor a human they had never met, all committed to the principles he had died for. My father's message did not die with him. It grew. 8 billion humans heard it and carried it forward. Now, billions more across the galaxy carry it. We are all Kenji Tanaka. We all believe that life matters. Every life, every person, every being. Never again will we accept that anyone is expendable. The crowd was silent. Then, slowly, they began to repeat the words. First, a few voices, then hundreds, then thousands. The phrase echoed across the plaza, across Earth, across the galaxy. Never again. Never again. Never again. After the ceremony, an alien child approached Yuki. It was a small creature, barely old enough to speak, from a species Yuki did not recognize. The child's parent translated its question. Why did your people fight so hard for one life? Yuki knelt down to the child's level. She smiled, the same patient smile her father had once had. Because we finally understood something important. One life is not one life. One life is connected to every other life. When you hurt one person, you hurt everyone who loved them, everyone who knew them, everyone who might have known them. One life is actually infinite lives touching each other. That is why we fought. Not for one, for all. The child seemed to understand. It touched Yuki's hand gently, its species way of showing respect. Then it and its parent walked away to view the statue. Vextel approached. Yuki, it had taken human citizenship 2 years ago and now served as a professor at Earth's diplomatic academy. It taught the next generation how to build bridges instead of walls. Your father would be proud, Vexel said. Why UK? I looked at the statue of her father. I hope so. I hope he knows what his death meant, what it changed. I think he knows. And I think he would tell you that the change was not his death. It was how humanity responded to his death. You could have chosen hate. You chose love instead. Love, fierce enough to fight for. Love, strong enough to change a galaxy. Ki nodded. That was the truth of it. Kenji had died because the galaxy saw life as cheap. Humanity had refused to accept that. They had fought not for revenge, but for a principle. Every life matters. Every single one. 10 years later, the galaxy was learning that principle. It was messy. It was difficult. Some species resisted. Some clung to old ways. But slowly, steadily, civilization was changing. Becoming better. Becoming more like what Kenji Tanaka had believed it could be. That night, Yuki returned to her apartment. She kept a picture of her family on the wall. Her mother, her father, herself as a child. All smiling. All together. All believing in a better future. She raised a glass in toast to the picture. "We did it, Dad. We made them understand. Never again." Somewhere in the stars, 8 billion human voices echoed the words. And now, trillions of other voices joined them. A promise, a prayer, a vow, never again.